Start recording. Let's go live. Start recording. Okay, good morning out on the West Coast. It's about 10:40. I know out on the East Coast it's almost 1, it's almost 2 p.m. out on the East Coast. So thank you for joining me. We're going to be going live shortly, and what we are going to be talking about is how to do a JV, which stands for a joint venture agreement, and how to avoid joint venture nightmares, right? When you've obligated yourself to a partner that you no longer want to be obligated to on a deal. So we're going to talk about that, how to avoid some of the pitfalls, and how to do a JV agreement properly. Now, I'm going to sit tight for a little bit while I wait for the algorithm to kick in to let people know that we are live. If you are tuning in right now, you could do me a huge favor by just letting me know that the audio is coming through clear. Give me a thumbs up, give me a some type of an emoji, a fire symbol, just no eggplants and no peachy peaches. So, but yeah, let me know that the audio is coming through fine. And once I get that, and once we get a little bit of traction, we will get started on our slideshow, on our presentation. If you don't know already, one of the things that I like to do is I like to create slides. I think it makes it easier for me to be able to present and to keep my thoughts clear. So one of the tools that I use, AI, is that I use Google Labs, the image effects that Google has, and that's their AI image generator. And what I thought of when I was creating this presentation was the old school, and they still have it, tag team wrestling. Now, if you're a wrestling fan, then you know what tag teams are. Tag teams are basically where it's two teams competing against one another, and only one member of each team is allowed to wrestle in the ring at the same time. And then when somebody gets in trouble, what they can do is they can go tag their other team member who typically sits behind the turnbuckle. They tag them in, and then the other person jumps in, and then they get to wrestle, right? That's tag team wrestling. And that's kind of what when I was working on these slides, I was envisioning as like the story behind a good joint venture agreement, the story behind a good JV, right? A good joint venture. So the whole theory behind this slides is a tag team wrestling, slide. And I think that the Google image did pretty good at demonstrating what I was envisioning, right? Was these two people. And, it's always funny when you watch tag team wrestling, how one player is, or not one player, but one member, whoever's in the ring at the time, is getting beat up, just completely getting annihilated. And then somehow they muster up enough energy to just jump over to the turnbuckle and tag their member so they could get in. Now, if you're my age, you remember the Killer Bees. The Killer Bees during the late 80s, early 90s. And these were these guys that would dress up, and they would actually wear masks, bee masks, and they would trick people because they would actually have a third tag team member typically hiding under the wrestling ring under the mat, and then they tag someone. So even though two of their tag team members would be like exhausted or beat up, they tag the third one, and the third one would get in, and you would never know who's wrestling because they're wearing masks. Anyway, that's my little WWE history, and that is how I made the parallel between tag team wrestling and how to do a proper joint venture, how to do a proper JV. All right, so we're going to get into the presentation. If you're just tuning in right now, please make sure that you like this video, this live stream. Make sure that you share this live stream. That would be amazing. If you know of anybody that you think can benefit from the content that we are working on, because we work on this stuff for you. There's obviously no cost to you, but there is a cost of admission, and that cost of admission is to make sure that you like, follow, and share. Statistically, I already know that more than 50% of the people that are watching our content are not subscribers, are not followers, are not only fans. So please make sure that you subscribe, follow, fan, heart, like, emoji, Super Mario Brothers, mushrooms, fireballs, whatever. Just make sure that you share the content so that other people can benefit from it, from us as well. We're working hard on it. We want to make good content for you, and I want to make sure that it brings value to your real estate investing, real estate wholesaling business. 95% of your goals. I always start our presentation with some type of a quote. 95% of your goals you will achieve if you do not quit. I read that earlier today and I thought that that was very appropriate here. You will get 95% of the goals that you set for yourself if you just do not quit. Just don't quit. If you don't quit, 95% of them are obtainable, attainable. And here's the reality. The reason that 95% of them are attainable is because most people aren't setting goals that are completely beyond their comfort zone anyway. Most people are setting goals that are pretty attainable if you think about it. And so if you just don't quit, most of the time you'll get those goals. So you want to challenge yourself, set goals that are outside of your comfort zone, and maybe the percentage will go down a little bit. But the truth is, most of your goals you'll get. You just got to make sure that you don't quit when you set those goals, okay? Now, for those of you who are tuning in, if you don't know already, I wrote a book. It's called Deal Like a Dove, Dispo Like a Dragon. And I wrote it in a superhero theme. That's why the logo on the book is, it pays homage, it pays tribute to the Daredevil and Wolverine movie. If you haven't figured it out, that's the emblem or the pendant necklace that they wore or that they had on the movie posters. And so I have the dove on one side and the dragon on the other. And the whole theory is, deal like a dove, treat people with, compassion and courtesy and respect, and then dispo like a dragon, get those deals sold. And so this is 400 pages of how to build this business, and not only how to build this business, but actually how to scale the business as well, using virtual assistants, learning how to delegate tasks, how to really build a real estate investing business using wholesaling as an exit strategy. So if you're watching this on a computer screen, you can click on that or use your QR scanner. You can click on that. It'll take you straight to our website. You can purchase the book. If you do prefer that you get it on here's the website link. Go to dove.dispodragons.com, dove.dispodragons.com. For those of you who prefer an audible version, you can go to audible.dispodragons.com, audible.dispodragons.com. And my narrator, his name is Tim Alexander. He's a great voice actor. He really gave life to the book. He made it very, very interesting. He did a phenomenal job. I would highly recommend it. So for those of you who are members of Audible and you pay that monthly subscription, pick it up. Go to audible.dispodragons.com. Listen to it in the car. Even if you only have a 15 to 20 minute commute every single day to go drop off the kids, bring the kids back, get to work, get home, that 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, that's 40 minutes a day. That's 200 minutes a week. What that equates to is over 150 hours per month, per year on your commute, which is the equivalent of earning a bachelor's degree in most universities. So use that time wisely. What you should be doing in the car is listening to content like Deal Like a Dove, Dispo Like a Dragon, podcasts, self-improvement stuff. Use that stuff to educate yourself. AI is taking the world by storm. We all know this already. And so you could be using this time. And again, you don't have to listen to my book. You could be listening to other content talking about AI and how to implement it in your business and how to take advantage of it, right? It's not only for just making images and making images of yourself look like a toy character, right? Which a lot of people did. Even I did it, right? It's fun. All the trendy stuff or the Ghibli, anime images. Anyway, go to audible.dispodragons.com. What you're looking at is a picture of Jay-Z hugging Warren Buffett. Now, we all know that Jay-Z is wildly successful in his own right, but he wanted to be even more successful. Not only did he want to become a billionaire, but he wanted to help create additional billionaires within his house, within his stable, within his community. And so who to go to if none better than Warren Buffett, right? One of the most successful, one of the most successful investors on the planet. So he approaches Warren Buffett and he says, hey, listen, I want you to mentor me. I want you to help not only make me a billionaire, but teach me how I can create other billionaires as well. This is a very famous photo of them having lunch at a diner, and that's Uncle Warren having his daily milkshake. Supposedly, that's a rumor. He has a milkshake a day and his Coca-Cola products. He loves Coca-Cola, and rightfully so, because Berkshire Hathaway is one of Coca-Cola's Coca-Cola's largest investors. So anyway, the point here is that not only did Jay-Z become successful, but then he has also mentored and created additional billionaires, including Rihanna and a few other people in his business world as well. So where am I going with this? Look, in this business, you could shortcut yourself to success by finding a mentor. And we have a profit sharing mentorship program within our organization. It is probably one of the most affordable, if not the most affordable mentorship program out there. And what this does is it teaches you how to build this business. And this isn't just, hey, here's a package of 25 videos, go watch these videos, learn how to do this on your own. What we've done is we've structured it where you have a mentor on call to be able to help you close your leads, to be able to help you get deals under contract, to be able to help you negotiate and renegotiate, to be able to help you find buyers. They will walk you through the entire process. This is a real mentorship, and they have every incentive to do it because they are getting a percentage of the profits. Now, this is not the same as a joint venture, because some people might look at this and they may say, well, isn't that what a JV is? No, and not necessarily, because as you will see during this presentation, a joint venture is just an agreement between two parties who are working together, where one person brings a seller, one person brings a buyer, you put the two together, you close the transaction, and everyone rides off into the sunset. There is no real mentorship there. There is no real person who is hand-holding you throughout the process, showing you how to do this business, whereas in our profit-sharing mentorship, there is. To learn more about it, go to start.dispodragons.com, start.dispodragons.com. Now, today we're going to be talking about how to do a JV and how to avoid JV nightmares when you are wholesaling real estate. And again, if you're just tuning in, the slides that I created are images of a tag team wrestling match where you've got two people that are tagging each other out, and I'm paying tribute to the tag team style of wrestling on WWE, where you've got two competing teams, you've got two wrestlers on one team, two wrestlers on another. They go in the ring, they pulverize each other, and then when one guy is tired or one gal is tired, he or she goes and taps her teammate or his teammate in the corner, and then that person replaces him. That's tag team wrestling, and that is how I made that parallel between the two when it comes to JVing. Now, before I get started, number one, I need you to listen to your team. So if you are a part of a team, if you already have a coach, if you already have a mentor, if you are a part of a group and they have a specific strategy when it comes to using joint venture agreements or when it comes to doing a joint venture, I want you to follow their strategy. My training and my video is not here to try to upend it or to try to tell you that you need to do something than what your team is doing or what your organization is doing. I say this all the time. If you're a part of a group, if you're a part of a team, if you're a part of an organization that already has a certain standard operating procedures, I want you to follow those procedures, okay? You always want, especially if they're providing you with leads. If they're providing you with leads, seller leads, buyer leads, whatever, if you're a part of an organization, I want you to make sure that you listen to your team first. I say it all the time. It's important that you sell out to their strategies, right? That's the only way an organization is going to stay within the same culture, and they're going to follow the same strategies and systems that they already put in place, because you've got a team leader, you've got a sales manager, you've got someone who is investing in those systems, and I need you to follow those systems first. Now that I got that out of the way, if you are not a part of a team, or if you're just watching this to just learn how to supplement what you're already doing, which is fine, that's great. We'll go into the content. Now, who needs a joint venture agreement? Well, anytime you are going to be working with another person and they are going to be bringing either a buyer or a seller to the table, you're going to want to have a joint venture agreement in place. So anytime you're working with anybody else and they have another person that they're bringing to the transaction, you are going to need a joint venture agreement. Don't just take anything for face value. Don't just take anything for their verbal commitment. You want to have something in writing that stipulates what the two parties are going to be doing. What is a joint venture agreement? Well, a joint venture agreement is a document that, like I said, stipulates exactly what you are going to be doing during this joint venture. Are you bringing the buyer? Are you bringing the seller? Is the other person bringing the buyer? Is the other person bringing the seller? Are there going to be any expenses that are included in this joint venture agreement? In other words, if I am going to be doing a possible novation, if I am going to have to put this on the MLS, if I'm going to have to pay for marketing photos, if I'm going to have to pay to trash this out, who is going to be paying for those expenses? Who is going to cover those expenses? It needs to be spelled out exactly and precisely as the way you need to make sure that you stipulate it very, very precisely as to how everyone's going to be paying for it, if you're going to be paying for it and getting reimbursed, if it's going to be split down the middle 50-50, if there are any expenses, etc., etc. So that's why you want to have a joint venture agreement and what a joint venture agreement is. Now, why do you need a joint venture agreement? Because you want to avoid any type of confusion. When it's really easy to start working in a transaction together without having anything in writing, and then when it comes time to closing, when you start looking at the HUD and the settlement statement, and then all of a sudden you realize that there's a mistake, and everybody makes mistakes. Even I've made mistakes on some of our agreements, not JV agreements, but even purchase agreements, where we say, you know, the buyer is only going to pay up to 1% of the closing costs. Well, I'll give you a real quick example. So we just recently had one that closed over in Houston, Texas, and our assignment agreement stipulated that the buyer was only going to pay 1% of the closing costs, and that's it, only up to 1%. So anything beyond that then fell on us as the real estate wholesalers, on our lap. So we had to cover that difference, and that difference ended up being about $3,500, and so that ate into our assignment fee. Now, our JV agreement stipulated that any expenses are going to be split in half. But because that one happened to slip by me, and that was my mistake by only stipulating that the buyer was to pay 1% and no more than that, I actually took the hit on that. My JV partner didn't, and I just ate it in my share of the fee, which is fine. But the truth was, our JV agreement had already stipulated that everybody was going to share 50-50 in the expense. So that's why you need a joint venture agreement, so that it's spelled out as to exactly how it's going to work and how it's going to play out, because things happen. Mistakes happen. Unanticipated events happen. And so when you have a joint venture agreement, it is in writing, and everybody knows what their role is going to be and what their commitment is going to be and what their contribution is going to be to any of those unexpected events. Now, when do I pull out my joint venture agreement? And that sounds a little dirty. When do I pull out get your head out of the gutter. When do I pull out my joint venture agreement? Well, you pull out the joint venture agreement at the very beginning of any possible transaction or any possible relationship that you're about to have with someone who's going to either bring a buyer or a seller to the table. That's when you're going to need it. Okay. Before you start giving out any information, before you start giving out any addresses, before you start sharing any buyer's information, before you start sharing any seller's contact information, you want to make sure that you have a joint venture agreement in place at the very, very beginning. The longer that you wait to bring one out and to get one executed, the less likely you're going to get the joint venture agreement executed. So always make sure that you get one executed early in the process, early in the transaction. Where do I get a joint venture agreement? Now, if you need a copy of a joint venture agreement, you can send us an email, or you can send us a direct message. You know, any of the platforms that you're watching this video on, you can send us a direct message on. So send us a direct message and basically say, hey, can I get a copy of the joint venture agreement that you use? And then you can have access to that. We can send that to you at no cost, okay? So that's where you can get one. Or you can go on the internet. There's a bunch of different places where you can find joint venture agreements between people. If you're a part of groups on Reddit, Discord, Facebook, you name it, there's joint venture agreements out there. Everyone is going to be a little bit different. Some of them have been written up by attorneys. Some of them have not been written up by attorneys, but you can have access to the one that we use, which has been written up by an attorney, and you're more than welcome to use that one as well. You're going to have to sign some type of a release that you're not going to hold us liable for using that joint venture agreement, though, but we'll send it over to you. Basics of a joint venture agreement, of a JVA. Number one, single property, single buyer. And what that means is that you're going to want to have a joint venture agreement for every transaction. You're not going to want to have a blanket joint venture agreement that applies to, every time you guys work together. No, you want a single property and a single buyer. You want to have a start and an end date. There needs to be a start and an end date to that JV agreement. We're not obligating each other for, till death do us part. That's not how this works, okay? So there needs to be a start and an end date. Typically, I think a fair joint venture agreement is probably good for at least 90 days. That's more than enough time to get the process going, to put the buyer and the seller together, and to close a transaction. Now, have there been instances where it's gone beyond 90 days? Of course, things like that happen, but you need a start and an end date. Expenses, you want it spelled out. Who is going to be paying for what? Are we splitting it 50-50? Is one person going to be responsible and then reimbursed? Just make sure that it's very clearly written out how you're going to handle expenses and how you're going to be handling profits. Not all joint venture agreements are 50-50. There are plenty of times where you have someone, let's say for instance, you have a deal. You have a property that you've gotten under contract. You are representing the seller, and the deal is so hot, so good. You've done such a good job at negotiating the terms that buyers are coming to you, but you've got someone that has a buyer who is more likely to close than some of the buyers that are approaching you. There's no rule or law or that stipulates that you can't say, all right, listen, I trust your buyer. I've done my research on them, and we'll talk about vetting them in a little bit. I feel like your buyer has a better chance of closing this transaction than the buyer that is approaching me, so I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to go ahead and go with your buyer, but on our JV agreement, it's going to be a 70-30 split as opposed to a 50-50 split. Why? Because I have other buyers that are approaching me, but I just feel like your buyer has a better chance of closing this transaction. Are you okay with that? And there's no shame in that, right? You're able to negotiate those terms because if you've got all the buyers coming to you, making you offers on it, but you do trust that other buyer's buying history, then you can negotiate other terms when it comes to what those percentage, how the profits are going to be dispersed, and at what percentage you're going to be dispersed at. Okay. Create a separate JV agreement for every deal. For every deal, do not use a blanket joint venture agreement, right? So for every deal, for every property, for every buyer, you're going to want to create a joint venture agreement. Now, why do I say every deal and every buyer? Because this isn't only going to apply to sellers. What if you have a buyer, right? And you're brand new, but you know that you have a buyer that will perform and that wants to close, but you don't have any deals, and you know of another person that says, hey, I can help us find deals. Well, now you're actually working as a team to be able to find deals for the buyer. So you're going to need a JV agreement where you guys are both representing the buyer. So anytime this buyer, right, John or Jane Doe buyer purchases, we're going to be sharing in the expenses, we're going to be sharing in the profits, and this is how it's going to be structured. So it's not always just like, oh, it's a JV just for a seller. It can apply to a buyer as well. And you don't want to use a blanket one. You don't want to just use a blanket one for like all of the buyers or all of the sellers. You want it to be specific to every deal and specific to every transaction. If you have a problem with attention on this deal, you're doing this business wrong. Okay, for just a split second there, I really didn't know where I was going with this slide, but now I understand what I was trying to say, which I don't think it really explained as good as it should have. Now, here's what I mean by that. There are going to be people who are going to have a deal under contract, and they're going to be promoting those deals under contract. And then what they're going to be doing is they're going to be posting it on Facebook groups, Reddit groups, Discord groups. They're going to be putting it on Facebook Marketplace. They're going to be putting it on Investor Lift. They're going to be putting it on Bake Home. They're going to be doing all of these things. Now, if you are representing the seller and you have a problem with the attention that that deal is going to get, then what I meant by this slide is that you are not preparing the seller. You are not preparing the agent for what your end strategy or what your exit strategy is going to be. So you need to make sure that the seller understands that you are a real estate investor that has multiple exit strategies. And as a real estate investor, you are going to be looking for your buyer. Now, you might find your buyer now, tomorrow. You might find your buyer later. You might find your buyer during the process, during this transaction. You might find the buyer after the close of the transaction. But either way, you're already starting to look for your buyer. So Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I just want to be clear that the minute we go under contract, I'm already looking for my buyer. And I want you to understand that. I don't want you to be shocked by this. Mr. and Mrs. Agent, you know that I'm purchasing this as either a fix and flip, a buy and hold, an Airbnb, a co-living, a fractional living, whatever it might be. I know you know I'm purchasing it for that purpose. I just want you to be aware that I'm already going to be starting to look for my buyer now. I'm not waiting. Okay, I'm starting today to look for my buyer. So if you see me marketing this, don't be shocked. Don't be surprised. And so what I meant by that slide is that if you're afraid of the attention that your JV partner might bring by going out there and marketing the opportunity to other buyers, by marketing the opportunity to other investors, then you're probably already doing this business wrong, because you're not, number one, fully disclosing your intentions, and you're not making the seller or the agent that's working with you, you're not making them aware of what it is that you're going to be doing. So make sure that you do that, okay? Very, very important. If someone wants to push your property out, let them. You don't need a JV agreement for this, a joint venture agreement. Okay, now why am I saying this? Because there are going to be plenty of people that are going to say to you, hey, this looks like a pretty good deal. Can I send this out to my buyers, and can we get a joint venture agreement on it? You don't need a joint venture agreement for somebody to go out there and promote the property. You really don't. Okay, you have the deal under contract. If they want to promote the property for you, then let them. There's no shame in them promoting the property for you, unless, again, you haven't done a good enough job at preparing the seller or the agent for the fact that you're already looking for your buyer. I'm looking for my buyer starting now. Contract's executed. I'm looking for the buyer now. I'm looking for the buyer starting today. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, right? So if you have a problem with somebody going out there and pushing it out for you and promoting it for you, that's already cause for concern, but you don't need a joint venture agreement for them to do that. Okay, you don't need that. A lot of people will try, especially if you're brand new. They will say, well, I need something in writing saying that I can push this out. No, you don't. Go ahead, go promote it. Okay, if you get a buyer and you get someone that is seriously interested in it and they want to submit an offer, or they want me to assign the contract to them, then what we can do is fill out a JV agreement then. We don't need a JV agreement right now for you to be able to go out there and promote it. You can promote it anytime you want, however you want to promote it, okay? You don't need a JV. There are lots of wholesalers acting as buyers with the intent to JV. So this has become a common gripe amongst real estate investors, amongst wholesalers, and that's why there are a lot of people that are promoting deals on these various platforms, including Reddit, including Discord, including Facebook groups, including investor, and they'll say no wholesalers, and buyers only. So they put those comments on there. And I understand why they're putting those comments on there. They're putting those comments on there because they don't want wholesalers acting as buyers, going in there and saying, hey, I'm interested in this deal, only to then try to pivot and say, well, I can bring a buyer to it. There's no shame in saying that you want to do a JV with someone. There's no shame in saying, hey, I'd like to promote this property. Can I promote it and see if I can get a buyer? There's no shame in doing that. But I think what gets people upset is when wholesalers will go and they'll say, hey, I'm interested in this property, and then really they're not interested in the property. All they want to do is they just want to see if they can JV on it, if they can go and promote it and find a buyer for it. And as I said earlier, they can go out and promote the property. They should, by all accounts, get your permission, right? They should reach out to you and say, hey, is it okay if I promote it? So that way, when and if you do see it on the internet, you're not shocked by it. It'd be nice as a courtesy for them to reach out to you. But if they want to promote it, they can go promote whatever it is that they want. In the real estate world, real estate agents do this all the time. There are real estate agents that are going out there and they're promoting other people's listings on Facebook Marketplace, on the internet. They're doing videos, TikToks, Instagram Reels, carousels. They're doing all of this stuff, even though it's not their own listing. But what they'll do is, as a courtesy, they will typically in the bottom comments of the text, they'll say, listing provided by, and then they'll give acknowledgement to the real listing agent. Now, in this case, I don't know if that's even applicable, but again, all they have to do is give you a call and say, hey, is it okay if I promote the deal to see if I can find my own buyer for it, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm a buyer, and then trying to later on shift and say, no, really, I just want a JV agreement on it, okay? Now, just for clarification, when we look at deals right within our organization, we look at every single deal as a buyer first. I am looking at a deal as a buyer first. Now, does that mean I'm going to buy every deal? No, I don't have the mental or the financial bandwidth or capacity to be able to buy every deal, number one. And number two, if that deal doesn't meet our buy box, if that deal doesn't meet the parameters at which we want to buy that particular deal, that we won't buy it, right? We just won't buy it. But what we could do is we could then say, hey, listen, this deal isn't for us, but we can push it out to our VIP buyers and see who is interested, and then we could possibly set up a JV agreement. I'm not going to ask for a JV agreement right now. I don't really have anybody that's particularly interested in it right now, but I'll push it out. I'll see what we can get, and then once I have someone that is interested, I can come back to you and we can discuss it then. How does that sound? So that's typically what we'll do. We'll look at it as an opportunity for us first. And if it's not for us, no problem. Hey, are you okay with us pushing it out? So for those of you that who do have deals, by all means, we'll take a look at them. We buy in almost every major metro market. Metro, we're not big on rural, but we'll buy in almost every major metro market. And as long as the numbers work, we'll look at a deal to buy. Okay, we want to buy, fix, flip, buy, fix, hold, buy, fix, Airbnb, buy, fix, co-living, buy, fix, furnished finder. We want to do all of those things. So we're looking at deals all day long. That is where a lot of my time is spent, is analyzing opportunities that are sent to me on a daily basis. Okay, so we look at every deal as a buyer first. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you vet your JV partner. All right, very important that you vet your JV partner. So you're going to want to ask some difficult questions like, number one, have you closed any deals yet? I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? You need to ask them that question. Have you closed any deals yet? You want to JV with me on this deal. You want to have an opportunity to work with me on this deal, but you haven't closed any deals yet. Then how can I have the confidence that you're going to be able to find a buyer, number one, and number two, be able to communicate with the buyer effectively what it is that we need them to know in order for us to close this deal? So you're going to have to vet the JV partner. And then you're also going to have to make sure that you vet the buyer, right? You're going to say, okay, so who is this buyer, right? Have you worked with this buyer before? Have they closed transactions before? Have you successfully closed transactions with this buyer before? Because there are people that are going to call you. People call me all the time. Hey, I've got this buyer for this thing. And I'll ask them, have you worked with this buyer? Well, no, they reached out to me. Okay, so how do you know this buyer, right? Is it just them responding to a post, right? Because if it is them responding to a post, then we're going to need to vet them a little bit more. Do you want me to get on the phone with them? I don't have a problem signing a JV agreement just for this buyer, but I mean, that means that we got to get on the phone with them so that we know who we're talking to, if they can perform, how quickly they can close. How do we know that that buyer isn't just another wholesaler who's daisy chaining that as well? So it's very important that you vet your JV partner. Anytime I get a message on a deal and there's very little to no negotiation, right? None. They just say, hey, guess what? I want it at the price that you have it at, and we're ready to move and we're ready to close. Every time it has been that easy or that simple or too easy or too simple, and they just say, we want it, let's sign it, I'll sign the assignment agreement right now, that always causes, for me, it has never gone well. It's cause for concern. Right? When there's very little to no negotiation with the buyer or the supposed buyer, what ends up happening is I discovered that they're a wholesaler that's usually trying to assign it for somebody else. They're just so excited about trying to get a deal under contract or something. Yeah, it's something that they have, and then they're going to try to put their fee on it, and then they'll push it out. So a little to no negotiation with a buyer that is approaching us about one of our deals is usually an indication that they're a wholesaler, usually, and all they're trying to do is push it out. And so what I'll tell them is, look, if you want to push it out, go ahead, promote it. I don't have a problem with you promoting it. You could put your fee on top. I really don't care. But we're not going to sign a joint venture agreement until you have a legitimate buyer, until I fully vetted you, until I fully vetted that buyer. And that buyer's not going to get an assignment agreement from us until we fully know who we're dealing with and we have some type of a history as to whether or not that buyer can perform. Okay? Now, just saying that they have a buyer is not enough. It's not enough. Okay, if someone says to me, I have a buyer, I'm interested, that's not enough to get us to sign any type of a JV agreement or getting us to sign any type of an assignment agreement. Number one, I want the buyer to get into the property. Okay, very, very important. If somebody says to you, oh no, we'll take it as is, we don't need to see the property, I still want the buyer to get into the property. I need the buyer to get into the property. The buyer has to get into the property, and the buyer has to understand that they are purchasing it, right, without any contingency, so they need to get their inspections done before any type of an assignment agreement is going to be signed. So make sure that the buyer sees the property. Okay, just because somebody comes to you as a JV partner and they say, I've got a buyer for this, that's not an indication for you to just, send them an assignment agreement. It doesn't work that way. Vet the JV partner and vet the buyer first, or you're going to find yourself, assigning a property to someone who could potentially lock it up, and now you're obligated to that person, for however long you've given them on the assignment agreement, and now there's nothing you can do. You don't want to get yourself involved in multiple JV agreements or multiple assignment agreements, because you can find yourself in legal hot water. So to avoid that, the best thing to do is just vet the JV partner and vet the buyer before you do any type of a JV or before you do any type of an assignment agreement. JV agreements are sent to title, and title can disperse. Okay, so let's just say that now you've done your job. You've got a deal under contract. You've prepped the seller. You've prepped the agent. Everybody knows that you are already looking for your buyer. This is your business. You are an investor, and you are going to be looking for your end buyer starting now. The minute we execute the contract, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I am already looking for my buyer. I'm hitting the ground running. I hope that you're aware of that. Fantastic. Now that they are, now we can start promoting the property. And if other people want to approach us and they want to push the property out for us, you're more than welcome to push the property out for us. You're more than welcome to post it in all the Facebook groups that you want. You're more than welcome to post it on all the Reddit groups that you want. You're more than welcome to put it on Facebook Marketplace if you want. I make as much noise as possible so that we can get this deal sold. But I'm not going to sign a joint venture agreement with you until you have a legitimate buyer who has visited the property, who understands that they are buying it non-contingent and their deposit is non-refundable. Only then will we sign a JV agreement, you and I. Only then will we sign an assignment agreement with the potential buyer. Only then. Now, let's just say that you've gone through all those steps, all those safeguards, and you now have a buyer who will perform, who will close, and you've signed a joint venture agreement with that other person. You had the seller, they bought the buyer, we've made a perfect marriage together, and now we're going to close. You can take that JV agreement. I'm getting dust on my nose, and it's causing me to itch. You can take that JV agreement to the title company, and the title company will then disperse. Okay, when it's time to close, based on the parameters, based on the language in that JV agreement, the profits are going to be dispersed however, in whatever way you and your JV partner have agreed to, 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, whatever it might be. Okay, that's how it's going to be dispersed. Now, there are some instances where the title company is going to say, I am not going to disperse to multiple people. Whoever's name is on the purchase agreement as the original assignor, that is the person that is going to receive the assignment fee, and you can disperse that however it is that you want to disperse that. But there's going to be some title companies that are going to say, sure, no problem, give me the JV. I will send out 2 wires to both you and your JV partner, and I will disperse, on the split, on the percentage split that you guys are instructing me based on what was signed on that JV agreement. All right. So either way, once the JV agreement is signed, you can send it to title. Some play ball, some don't. Some will only send the assignment fee to the original person on the contract, the assignor, and some are more than willing to split it up however it is it's split up based on that JV agreement, okay? Now, if you need a copy of a JV agreement, again, you can use the one that we use. Send us a DM on whatever platform it is that you're currently using right now, and then we'll shoot you a copy of the JV agreement that we use. All right. Now, lastly, if you saw value in the content that we are sharing, we share a lot of this stuff on our school community. We call it the Dispo Dragons Dollar Club. It is $1 for lifetime access to our community. And here's the deal. You can get a lot of this information all over the internet. You can get it on YouTube. You can get it on Reddit, you can get it on Discord, you can get it on Facebook, you can get it in books, you can get it in a lot of different places. And the thing is, our message is just a little bit different. The way that we present it is just a little bit different. I like slides. I like working on these slides. That's my opportunity to get creative. If you haven't noticed, I've got the Dispo Mania in the background, paying tribute to Hulk Hogan, this whole tag team wrestling theme, trying to explain the way the JV works. That's just the way that I do it. right? I'm not going to appeal to every single demographic. I'm not the type of person that's going to show the fast cars or the checks or this works, you'll make money tomorrow. There's no fast cash here. This isn't an easy business. It's not going to happen overnight, right? That's just not the way I am. That's not my message, and that's not what I send. So I'm going to attract a different person versus some of the other influencers that are out there, and that's fine. Those are the people that I want to attract into our community. And so what you're going to get is you're going to get people who are like-minded in this community, in our tribe, and you'll be able to relate with them, and you'll be able to work together, and you'll be able to share successes, you'll be able to share losses, you'll be able to share best practices. And so that is the reason that I am encouraging you to join our tribe. Again, not everybody's going to be a part of it, not everybody's going to feel comfortable in it, and not everybody's going to want to be. Some people like that flash, that pizzazz, that flash in the pan stuff. And that's cool too. And if you want to follow those, you're more than welcome to. But that's our community. You can go to school.dispodragons.com, school.dispodragons.com. Lastly, please make sure that you like, follow, and share. We're working hard on creating this stuff for you so that way it helps your business. At the end of the day, that's really what this is all about. It's all about bringing value and making sure that this helps your business grow. So please be sure to like this video. Please make sure to share this video with anybody else that you think can benefit from the content that we're sharing. And lastly, make sure that you follow, subscribe, our OnlyFans us. I'm going to see if this works on OnlyFans, and if I can, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that many subscribers on there, but we'll try it anyway. Who cares? Let's see what happens. So make sure that you like, follow, and share. As always, if you have any deals under contract right now, we want to see them. I told you, we look at every opportunity as a buyer first. If it doesn't work for us, then we'll say, hey, look, we can push this out to our VIP buyers in most major metro markets. If you have a deal that you need help restructuring, reanalyzing, right? If you need us to help renegotiate the terms, you may have found yourself in a deal that's too high. You may have found yourself in a deal where now you've got it locked up a little too high, and really it should be treated as a novation. We can help you with that as well. So be sure to reach out to us, send us a direct message, and let's see if we can help you improve your business. All right, I will see everybody soon. Have a great day, you guys. Take care.